I will say this from an investor perspective is nothing I buy is ever on the MLS. Nothing I sell is on the
Yep.
MLS. Everything is done word of mouth.
Mhm.
If I can't afford to do the high level of rehab that I do and buy properties on the MLS. Okay.
Right.
I've got about 7 different acquisition sources. I've been doing this for years and years and years.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host. I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show or watching the show, if that's what you're doing, like on YouTube or Facebook or where we put this thing on so many channels. It's you'll be able to find it anywhere, you know. And any case, we got a great guest today. Michael Drew is a brother from another mother. We're both investors. I've been reading about him. We have similar backgrounds, how we got started. We're both of us are more of the nuts and bolts we call blocking and tackling, which is what really works. You can't go wrong with the fundamentals. Just follow Michael Jordan, Larry Bird in basketball. They both have said the same thing in retirement. They said every day when they played, they dribbled the ball 3,000 times, they passed it 2,000 times, and they shot it 1,000 times, even on their last game. That's the kind of stuff this is what works. So make sure you pay attention, take notes. Unless you're driving, just relax. We'll have it all in the show notes for you later. So, in any case, Michael, sorry for the long introduction. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you being on the show, man.
Absolutely, Gary. I'm glad we finally got our schedules together. Excited to talk to you, my man.
Yep. Well, I always love speaking with guys like you because there's a million ways you can do things.
Sure.
But there's a couple of ways that if you master those few things well, you'll always have a way to make money. And it's passive income. It's based on a physical, tangible asset that always goes up in value. Yes, there's periods of time where you
Sure.
a little correction, but for the most part, it's extremely reliable. So,
Hmm.
in any case, if you wouldn't mind, I always like to ask people
Yeah.
what got you into this because I know, like me, Michael, when I was a kid, I was going to be an astronaut. I wasn't going to be a real estate investor,
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
but what got you into it? Was there like a relationship you had with your granddad or something that got you into it, or?
Yeah. I wasn't that lucky. I actually I say I kind of screwed up a little bit. I was in Chicago, born
Mhm,
and raised, and what I was supposed to do is trade the stock market. That was kind of my
mhm,
dream. And what happened, my mentor said, hey, listen, if they get a high-speed internet at home, by the way, I may be dating myself by telling you the story, but once they get high-speed internet at home, our pricing advantage is going to go away. Well, then what happened is I moved to Indianapolis area, and a friend of mine, I had a nice job, I had a nice house, and my friend Jeff said, "Look at you." We were kind of guys like to tease each other a little bit. He says, "Look at you in your big fancy house." He goes, "I've never made as much money as you, but I've got 15 houses." And I go,
wow.
"Well, okay, I've got good credit, I've got a good job, but I only have one big house." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I just got my tail handed to me here. So I
Yeah.
kept asking him, and I'll be honest, I was like that get ready guy. I was like, tell me more, let me read another book or listen. And then
Right.
finally, he's like, I will not talk to you anymore until you buy your first house. And I said, okay,
Yeah.
what do I do? And I always thought I'm not the smartest guy, but I'll outwork you. That's kind of, my wife's a
Yeah.
PhD, person. And so she's just a smarter, inherently. I'm just going to
Hmm.
outwork you. And so what I did is I copied success. I went to work
Hmm.
for the Rich Dad Company out of Scottsdale, Arizona area. And
Yep.
I kind of
Hmm.
copied you read all those books and taught
Hmm.
his seminars and his game. And the bottom line is I said, getting wealthy is mainly a math problem. It's not brain surgery. It's mainly a math problem, but you got to get started. And so
Yep.
that's where I got led into the zip codes I invest in. I'm a sports guy, so I kind of played some defense and offense at the same time. And before you
Hmm.
know it, 15 years later, I've done about 1,100 homes bought and sold. Our property
Hmm.
management companies direct deposit over $1 million a month in rent to our investors. So it's
Awesome.
and I used to say the bottom line is I just failed more than the other guy. I'm not better than anybody. I've just made more mistakes.
Right.
So
Yep. But what's interesting is you came from the traditional investing in the stock market
sure.
world, and I did that too. I used to be in banking,
Yeah.
and I go to the corporate library every day at lunch and study all the I can't even remember what all the publications were, Barron's
Right.
and
Right.
something Morningstar,
Yeah.
and started making really good decisions and making good money just on my own. But the thing is here's what I was going to point out. I bet the skills that you developed in that phase of your life has served you well in real estate because you get used to having a little bit of an analytical mind, you get used to analyzing things and determining is good or bad, is it right or wrong, is it true or false? And most of us came to the table in investing with some other skill we developed somewhere else. That's what I've noticed. Engineers,
I agree.
programmers, lawyers, accountants, even teachers do really well in this
Sure.
investing business. It's crazy, you know?
Hands down, would agree. And like I've got a good friend of mine, a pickleball buddy of
Mhm.
mine who's a firefighter. You know,
Uh-huh.
you never took that career to be super wealthy, right?
Yep.
But it's very loanable, you know, et cetera, et cetera. They've got other skills. But that
Yep.
said, is we, you know, I use this term, maybe overuse it, called reverse engineer. Where do you want to be? What does it look like? And if you understand how inflation's affecting our economy, you know, your
Yep.
dream of retiring on $4,000 a month is not a very nice lifestyle, maybe anymore. Maybe it was 40 years ago, but you're not traveling the world on $4,000 a month and buying your kids,
Right.
you know, anything, much of anything. So if you reverse
Yeah.
engineer this and get started, you've got a really good shot at doing well. Even if you have a more linear income, like a,
Mhm.
you know, like a nurse or a doctor or my dentist clients or things like that, you're not going to double or triple your income next year. So therefore you have
Yeah.
to, you know, utilize leverage in your credit.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, well, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
So you're in Chicago, then you went to Indianapolis, right?
Indianapolis.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
great, great market. I've taught like four classes there over the years. You've
Yeah.
got Lafayette, Fort Wayne. Lafayette's a great college town. Some
Yeah.
great marketplaces there. You're not far from Chicago. You're
Sure.
not far from, you know, Louisville, Kentucky, and it's just you're 8 hours from a lot of good metropolitan areas. When you were investing, did you branch out from the area soon, or did that come later? Or kind of take? I want people to hear this because I was
Sure.
stuck in my area, Michael, for literally like probably 15 years before I ever branched out into other markets. I can't believe I
Right.
waited so long, you know?
Right.
Uh,
Well, here's what happened is
mhm,
again, I was very teachable. So I actually
mhm,
married a gal and moved to Columbus, Ohio. And
mhm,
here's what happened. When I went to work for the Rich Dad Company, he said the number one reason why rentals work is jobs. Okay. You might
mhm,
grow up in a small town like I did with 15,000 people, bad area to own, you know, a dozen houses. Okay. You've got to
mhm,
follow jobs if you want to get this thing to scale. So you can't invest in New York, Chicago, or San Francisco because they're very expensive. The rate of
mhm,
return maybe not doesn't work for cash flow, right? I'm more interested
right.
in cash flow, massive passive cash flow, right? And so I
Yeah.
said, okay, we want to be in that second tier, that Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, that Kansas City does pretty good. You go too far north, it gets cold, right? You go too far east, you get 2 stories, you get more asbestos if you keep going way far east, you know, et cetera. So we went to the 13th or 14th largest city. Within 700 miles is
Mhm,
two-thirds of the American population. I just
yeah.
reflecting just what you said. So I
Yeah.
can have breakfast in Indianapolis. I can go to Chicago for lunch, or if I leave early
Mhm,
enough, I can have breakfast in Indy and go to New York for a Broadway show. People don't realize
yep.
how close it is. And
Mhm,
so that's kind of, you know, I said, hey, stack the deck in my favor. Number one, I don't want to lose money. But number two, you know, I'm married. I got to make sure I don't screw this up. So the wife lets me buy more. And that's what I did. I say, so I have a place in Florida and I'm a little
mhm,
snowbird down there. I love to play pickleball down there. However,
mhm.
man, it's been getting its tail handed to it with some bad weather. Well, now
Oh
the
yeah.
insurance companies are saying, hey, we're going to jack up your rates. There goes
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
rate of return. It cannibalizes your rate of return. Although I enjoy that for my suntan, I don't enjoy it for my cash flow, right? So
Yeah.
you're continually pushed. Or let's say Texas. I got friends in Texas. They're like, well, we have no state tax like Florida and Nevada, so we have
Right.
higher property tax. Well, I may want to live there
Mm,
personally, but I need cash flow to retire on. So I'm going to
right.
stack the deck in my favor, you know, and then say, I need a landlord friendly state. So I can't do California. It's because
Right.
that's tenant friendly. Okay, I got to go. So
Yep.
when you stack all these together, that's what
Mm,
happened. Is I did the math, did the research. I started with really what happened. The true story is I started on my own, and then what happened when my dad was 62 years old, he passed away from melanoma. And
mm,
we had your brother, sister, my sister. I was a little bit more financially oriented kid, and
mhm,
this is a true story. I looked over at my dad and I said, "I will take care of mom." And I didn't know what that meant, but
right.
it meant financially, but I didn't know what that would look like. And
Right.
so I put her money in the stock market, but she didn't want to lose any money. So if you don't want to lose any money in the stock market's good for accumulation, but not so good
Right.
for income, is my 2 cents, my personal
Right.
take. So I said,
Yep.
well, let's just, hey, these rentals are kind of get rich slow. They're not super exciting. They just churn out and spit out cash every month, mom. So
Yeah.
we rolled over her inherited IRA, which of
Mm-hmm.
course would be my dad's former 401k. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought deeds to actual houses.
Okay.
And then eventually it was enough with that, some social security income, et cetera, that she essentially replaced her income. And
Yeah.
it was nice that I didn't, even though I could have given her X thousand dollars a month, that prideful baby boomer didn't want my help. Right. And I respect
Right.
it. And so she had the doors and it worked out. And it seemed kind of easy because I do it all the time. And then other
Mm-hmm.
people in a seminar in the California area, one lady raised her hand and says, "Can I be your mom?" And I said, "Aha, there could be a business behind this." And
Yeah.
that was hundreds and hundreds of houses ago. And it's great
Yeah.
because long term we own the property management company, we take care of
Mm-hmm.
the investors. My biggest
Mm-hmm.
investor is actually out of Ventura, California, who bought over 80 houses. So
Mm-hmm.
helping people make X thousand dollars, whatever that might mean for you, is what we do. And it
Yeah.
seems like what you should do. Your house is good enough, your SUV is good enough, buy more houses. In my 2 cents.
Yeah.
you know
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to GaryRealEstateWithGaryWilson.com. Click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care. That's funny. I literally just signed somebody onto the team right before the podcast. She's
Yeah.
in Ventura. It's one of my favorite California beach towns.
Yeah.
I learned how to paddle. I already knew how to paddleboard. I learned how to paddleboard in the surf in Ventura, and I skateboard. I still have a skateboard out there. It's normal for a guy my age to be on a skateboard, but
Wow.
we hit it off. But I told her, I said, look, I'm going to help you out. We got the tools to help you find these deals on
Yeah.
and off market in
Yeah.
Oxnard, Ventura, Santa Barbara, Carpinteria. You're not going to have a problem. A lot of agents struggle not because they're not smart enough, it's because they don't have the right tools. You
Sure.
need the right tools, just like in a stock market.
Completely
How do
agree.
I find the properties and the owners? How do I do the analysis so you can make really well informed, educated decisions for you and your clients?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your business more. So the model now is
Hmm.
you've gone from investing for yourself and of course
Yep.
helping your mom, and now you've got a business model. You mentioned you have a client in Ventura.
Yeah.
Um, are the properties so obviously Columbus is great. My oldest brother, by the way, is in Granville. He's a professor
Yeah.
at Denison College. Just
Yeah.
like
I know where that's at. Sure.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
And by the way,
Beautiful campus.
Columbus, it is. And Columbus has the distinct, unique reputation, or that's a fact that they have the highest per capita percentage of higher education people per capita any other metropolitan
Yeah.
place in the country.
Yeah. I wouldn't argue with that. Yeah. So,
Yep.
so basically what happened is in getting excited about this is I said, all
Mhm.
right, we need an area. We want good jobs. We want landlord friendly. My houses back of the napkin are about $120,000 to $200,000, and our
Wow.
positive cash flow on
Hmm.
30 and 15-year mortgages with
Okay.
20% down. Okay. So anybody who's been
Right.
in real estate long enough knows that's pretty good. And
Yep.
they're already rehabbed and they already have, see, we own the property management company too. So we
Yeah.
know, don't give a guy a 20-year-old water heater, just replace it. Don't give a guy even a
Right.
10-year-old HVAC, just replace it. So we've
Yep.
gone through all the useful life of major mechanicals, deferred
Mhm.
capital expenditures, and we've replaced everything. And my secret game plan is to have them have a great experience and buy more. I mean, that's it.
Right.
So then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
is people are even young. I have a guy who was a client in the north of Vegas is a city called Reno. making
Yep.
great money, but he was moving jobs every couple years because his career was very fast moving. And he says, I rent myself, but I've got extra money. And I said, well, pick up a rental house. I'll have the tenant work on paying it off for you. Now, don't get me wrong. Let's be real. There could be some expenses, like some maintenance things and that. I mean, it's not nothing's guaranteed, right? You could have some drains clog up and this and that, right? But and before you knew it, this guy was investing with me for a few years, and he's got, I think, 5 or 6 homes. He's never even seen them except the inspection reports, and he loves it. So that's the type of passive investing that we do here at Real Estate Done for You. It's turnkey mailbox money. You can take one off the shelf and raise your hand and say, hey, this one's done. Inspection's done. If you want to close in June, I'll direct deposit the rent in July. Done. It's that easy. Mm-hmm.
So can we walk through like an example, say like the person, obviously I know you can't give names and addresses and stuff like that, but
Sure.
let's say you've got somebody in, another like the Bay Area,
Uh-huh.
from San Jose, California, where
Uh-huh.
obviously it's really difficult to cash flow there, but they want to invest with you. So take us from the point of when they say, hey, you know what, Michael, I want to do this. What do I do
Yeah.
next? Yeah. If you,
Sure. What I usually do is I've either point them to my book on Amazon called Retire on Rent Revised. You have to say revised because we just revised it. Retire on Rent, and I usually just drop ship that to them. Takes about 45 minutes to read. Okay, number one, because that's going to answer some questions they haven't had yet. Retire on Rent Revised. Then they say, okay, and I enjoy. I've been doing this a long time. 15 years, a long time. So what I enjoy is to get into their situation. What is your situation? Oh, getting my tail handed to me by an IT company. I'm working 80 hours a week, or I'm an engineer and I don't have time for this. Okay. Or I'm 55 and I'm behind. I got a divorce and a black eye. That life happens to people. I got to catch up, man. What do? I got good, tell me what you're going through. Okay. So then I, again, reverse engineer a plan for you and say, okay, so what do we need to do? Let's go through it. I've got a few kind of tricky arrows in my quiver, and I go through that with folks. The key, though, is they got to get started, right? You can't get ready to get ready. We lay out a plan, and I don't need you to go fast, so I need you to go and then start slow. So we look over my inventory. I will say this from an investor perspective is nothing I buy is ever on the MLS. Nothing I sell is on the MLS. Everything is done word of mouth. If I can't afford to do the high level of rehab that I do and buy properties on the MLS. Okay. I've got about 7 different acquisition sources. I've been doing this for years and years and years. So we get off market deals. Okay. We have to pay cash for our off market deals. So we put in an extensive amount of rehab, and then the property management company and then my leasing team goes through the rigmarole of leasing the property. Okay. And they're all on 2-year leases with a bump between year 1 and year 2. So then we'll do we'll estimate a payment based on, good credit. Mortgage rates will change. That's up to the month it's in, right? And then you see your positive cash flow, and then go from there. It's just simple as a purchase agreement and about a 4-week close if you're getting a mortgage. We do a lot of 1031 exchanges, usually 1 or 2 a month.
Okay.
So if you have one of those, you don't even need if you're doing it either cash or you have debt service, debt to cover. You can either, of course, get conventional financing, or we have plenty of debt service coverage ratio or no doc loan providers as well. And then go from there because ours qualify. The numbers are good enough to qualify for those DCSR loans as well. So from there on out, I need your account number and your routing number for your direct deposit next month. I mean, that's about it.
So I love the formula. It's a great model because there are a lot of people that if they have the ability to invest either through cash or credit, they generally are going to be shorter on time because they probably built a dental practice or and you mentioned firemen too. I'll give you the 7 groups. The top 7 groups that we've had success with client wise have been the fireman policeman group, right? Teachers, military, all active duty, retired, reserves, what have you, engineers, pilots. That was a bit of really good fun. If you ever want to have a lot of fun, go hang out with some pilots.
Yeah.
Did I say chiropractors? I can't remember.
I like my chiropractors as well. Yeah, I used to play rugby, so in Illinois they played at Palmer. Yeah, but all these people are they've already gone through these careers to maybe better themselves.
Yes.
And now that said, again, I'm old enough to say, so you've done a great job with that. So I'm proud of your bank account, but maybe you're not
Yep.
happy with your waistline or your financial waistline. And they're coming to me saying,
Right.
hey, I gotta, I play rugby. I play a lot of pickleball. Like I said, I work out every day.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, I got to tighten this up, man. It can't be that hard. We
Yeah.
used to say if it was just about knowledge, all the librarians would be millionaires and have great sex lives. It's not.
Yeah.
You gotta take action on some of these things too.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Well, it does definitely satisfy a need. I mean, people do want to participate. This makes it easier for them. And the cool thing is we should definitely talk more after the podcast because
sure.
we have tools in our team that we use. We provide to our agents to find not only the on market, but also obviously the off market deals for our clients. And a lot of
Oh
agents are
yeah.
confused by this. They're thinking, wait a second, if it's off market, doesn't that mean they cut me out? I said, no, it
No.
just means there's not on the MLS. You
Right.
still can earn a nice fee
Of
for finding
course.
these off market deals. People want off market deals. Give
Right.
them what they want. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean,
Oh no,
Robert Kiyosaki.
we love paying commission, but the
Yeah.
point is it's kind of like 100, not 100 years ago. I was just left a car dealership. This whole like
Mhm.
CarMax stuff. Where they're like, hey, the
Yep.
price is X, and you're like, well, can I get it for Y? No, the sign said the price is X.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be. Some people think it needs to be, like when your dad bought a car and it's, oh, I got to sit there and, argue with them. No, you're solving a problem for somebody, Mr.
Right.
Realtor guy or Mr. Real estate professional. So if
Yep.
the challenge they're faced with is they don't have a way to replace their W-2 income and you've
Right.
got a way to help them out, that can parlay into a bigger listing in your zip code. But
Oh,
solving
yeah.
problems and helping people solve problems is a joy. I think it is, and
Yeah.
that's what you can do through some of the relationships that I'm sure you've provided and, myself,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
whatever we can do. Cause it's fun, and whether
Yeah.
it's, whatever it may be. So I do enjoy that. And,
Yeah.
and that's where someone will be like, I have a New Hampshire client and they're like, you can't make positive cash flow in New Hampshire without 50% down. And,
Right.
and some of those properties have 2 commas in them. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
expensive,
I know.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I do. I still love the thrill of the hunt. I mean, I'm not in production myself, but I have lots of agents who are, and I coach them
yeah,
directly. But the thing is the thing I like about investors. I mean, obviously, I'm an investor myself. That's
sure,
when I started in brokerage. It wasn't to be a regular realtor at all. I never did that. It
yeah,
was just I always focused on investing. But what I found out is when I started a brokerage that served investors, that's what eventually became the Global Investor Agent Team. It's a national team. Is the repeat business. When you make an investor happy, and I'm sure you've seen this yourself, I
hmm
mean, you'll get, 6, 7. I have one client bought 41 properties with me. And I think you said the guy in Ventura was it's like
yeah,
80 properties.
yeah, 88, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, for all the agents out there listening right now, how'd you like to have a client that bought 88 properties with you,
yeah,
right? You find them, introduce them to Michael Drew,
yeah.
right? I mean, do the right thing. Think relationship first. Serve them in the relationships, and I promise you, you're going to have plenty of repeat and referral business by just doing that one thing. Investors is the
Oh,
ideal client to build that type of
hands
business on.
down. I mean, I've got a ducktail on that. I mean, the referrals I've got from these people, because
Yep,
I'm that old school guy that answers his phone. Okay. I
yep,
always say this. I say I have a motorcycle and I play pickleball and I put my phone down at dinner. Otherwise, I'll get right back to you. Otherwise, I'll answer the
yep.
phone. So, and you take care of people, and it is
Hmm.
amazing how it comes back. By the way, is this guy's been a client for about a dozen years and
Yep.
he's now slowing down and he says, hey Michael, can you help me? I've made a ton of money. I'm very happy with the investment. Hey, I'm going to probably 1031 these into something else, so that now I'm in charge of getting these to other investors. So this is multiple
Yeah.
commissions. It happens
Yeah.
all the time. And that's really, I think, where we can add value to our clients. All right.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, whether it's, whether it's a listing, what is your unique selling proposition? And that's where I really enjoy building relationships with agents. Enjoy, having people say, hey, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. I read your book or listen to your podcast. I'm going to start with one or two or whatever it may be. Because like my sister went through a couple life changes. She ran into a situation. She needed some cash. And then she went into one of her rentals and she said, oh my gosh, I've got a ton of equity in this. I go
Hmm.
grab some equity out of it. It's you can get a
Right.
second loan or you can all the equity's there. It's tax-free money for you. Go grab it if you need some cash.
Yeah.
all the time, you know?
What's one of the beautiful things about owning real estate is lenders like lending against it because it's not going anywhere. It's a physical, tangible asset that
Yeah.
holds its value.
Yeah.
Another thing too is it allows you and I to not only model the principle but enforce the principle of never never touch principal. I mean, keep
Right.
don't sell the asset, income producing asset, just borrow against it. In
You
fact,
got it.
would you, if you wouldn't mind,
Mhm.
expand on that a little bit? The whole premise of, you know, you know, don't touch principal. How can you do this without touching principal? I mean, I know this is like this. We could teach a whole day's class on this one
Sure,
subject
sure.
alone. But if you wouldn't mind touching on that a little bit, I'm gonna be quiet. Let you talk.
Sure, sure,
So,
sure. So let's just say, let's use a round number of, I know some people, I would lose credibility in California when I say you could buy a house for $150,000. But
yeah.
to give you an example, it's,
Mhm.
we can, all of our gasoline's under $3 a gallon too. I mean, so it's just a cheaper to live out here. Okay. It is what it is.
Right.
So someone might say, hey, I'm going to buy a house for 150,000 and the rent on it's 1,400. Let's just say, it covers the mortgage. 20%
Mhm.
down, right, would be about 30 grand. Okay.
Mhm.
Let me talk a little slower. 150 grand
Okay.
times 20% would be $30,000 down payment plus closing cost, right? Okay.
Mhm.
So we've got that down. And now we've got a positive cash flow situation where we've got the rent comes in at X and your payment goes out as Y, right? In the
Mhm.
beginning, you're not making a ton of money, right? Because it is what it is. The rents are going to go up over time, right? The property
Mhm.
appreciates over time. And then your property, of course, is on a depreciation schedule. That's more for your tax guy to walk through with you.
Yep.
Well, then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you find yourself, whether it's a year or two down the line, maybe you pick up another property, maybe you don't. Maybe in
Mhm.
5 years, you realize that property is now, using an example, nothing's guaranteed, is now worth $225,000. And your
Mhm.
mortgage, and now let me talk slower, the
Mhm.
property you bought for 150 and you put down 30 grand, okay? So you only owed 120 on it. Let's just say that mortgage is now down to 100. Okay.
Mhm.
So now we've got a property worth 225,000 and we've got a debt on the on that property for 100. So we've got $125,000 that we could do whatever we wish with it. So we can do a 1031 exchange and sell it all and buy more,
Mhm.
or we could just refinance that at a lower interest rate and then we can take
Mhm.
that money out and we've never touched that initial 30 grand. We've just
Exactly.
parlayed that, and gone from there. In fact, I've had some investors speak to me directly and have some, without getting into a lot of detail, saying, if
Mhm.
I leave my son or daughter, 500 grand or a million, the worst thing you to do with my maturity when I was 19 is give me a $500,000 or $1 million. That would
Oh
be
yeah.
horrible, horrible. They're saying,
Yeah.
hey, all I want to do is give them these 7 doors or these 5 doors that kick off 2 grand a month. And I asked them not to sell any of those assets for 5 years, and they get
Yeah.
them in the modality of passive mailbox money.
Right.
Live off the eggs. Don't kill the chickens, right? And
Yeah.
it's worked very, very well. That's how it works, and
Yeah.
it's a joy because it makes sense. Here's my analogy is: if Gary, you and I were to go start an
Mhm.
Uber business, we would do our research. We'd find the best vehicle for that job. You and I might
Mhm.
want to drive an Escalade or Maserati or Bugatti or blah, blah, blah. But the best
Mhm.
vehicle would be a Toyota Camry or Toyota Prius, usually. Depends on your zip
Yeah.
code. Well, it's a $35,000 car and we run the wheels off of it or whatever we do, however you make money with Uber.
Mhm.
That's the right vehicle for the job. So that's what we found in Indianapolis. It's not,
Yeah.
your dream home. It's the right vehicle. It's the right 3-bedroom bath, 1 bath, maybe a 2-bath, 1-car garage home, 1,200, 1,800 square feet. It's the right vehicle for the job. Easy to
Yeah.
rent. My average tenant stays there for a while. And all of a sudden it's just literally I don't want to say it's hard to fail because I'm sure I could figure it out, but
Yeah.
it's my clients continue to buy more and they continue to refer their friends and family. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Well,
yeah,
well, I'll tell you what, I know we'll probably get that magical half hour mark, but
yeah,
we covered an awful lot today, man. I
yeah,
appreciate it. And I just want to reiterate a few things for you guys. So there is a book called Retire on Rent Revised if you go to Amazon.
correct. Yep.
But also, Michael, if they go to the website, Real Estate Done For You. So, guys, it's spelled out Real Estate Done, DONE, the number 4 and the word you. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. My name is Michael Drew. You're also
Yeah.
welcome to go to michaeldrew.com and it'll forward you right there. But yeah.
Okay. And what do people find when they get there? Just a brief
Well, they'll
little.
see my properties. They'll see the
Okay.
number one thing you can do is just schedule a strategy session with me. It's just time on my clock. Leave your
Okay.
checkbook at home and let's just
Mhm.
chat. And what are you trying to
Yeah.
accomplish? What can I do for you? And schedule
And
that
that's
with
all.
me and go from there. That's all we need to do.
And that's all on the website that they
You
can
got it.
schedule right there.
Yep.
Oh, that's
Background, a
awesome.
little bit deeper dive into Indianapolis, deeper dive if
Yeah.
you're faced with a 1031, what we can do for you there. I mean, we have,
Yeah.
without getting into details, dozens of homes available if you need those, et cetera, et cetera. So, go
Yeah.
there and just give me a call and see if the shoe fits, and let
Yeah.
me know what you're looking for. Yeah. And we'll go, if
Yeah.
you're more of an engineer type that really likes to go over the numbers, let's put our hat backwards and bring out our pens and do the math on a property. No problem. Whatever you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Indianapolis is kind of a neat place to visit. If you, for the listeners, if you've never been there,
Yeah.
and I know I traveled all over the U.S., 600 cities and towns, and they all have something to offer. Indianapolis is just unique because it's a great sports town,
Uh-huh.
down to earth people, you know, heartland people.
Sure.
Great food, everything is affordable, easy to commute into and out of, flying. It just
Oh
centrally,
yeah.
I mean, just go and try it. Go look at some properties, meet up. Maybe Michael will take you out and you can look at some of them, perhaps. Or I'd like,
Absolutely. We do
yeah.
an investor interview. So you come in, it's usually a
Okay.
1 day turnaround. It's about a 3-4 hour day. We break bread
Hmm.
together, have breakfast usually, and then we kind of go over projects, what I just bought, the level of rehab, what's done, what's going on, and then we take you by the Indianapolis Colts Stadium, the Lucas Oil Stadium, where Taylor Swift was recently at, and then we go over here to the Pacers, so another sports team downtown. Then we see the farm team to the Indians. They're on the other side of town. It's a
Yeah.
big little city, and
Yeah.
then we say, hey, this is what it looks like. They're mainly B class neighborhoods, like that Toyota,
Yeah.
Camry. They're not meant to be, hot tubs and 5-car garages. They're not on purpose. And then you're like,
Right.
oh, I get it. And one guy's like, I grew up in something like this. It's just now, worth $500,000 in California. And I said, okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
And then go from there. And then let us know, whatever you need. And in fact, I sell some investors say, hey, if you're in the buying mood, book your ticket, I'll reimburse you. I'll buy your ticket. Come on out. Have some fun. We do
Oh,
those
wow.
on Wednesdays and Thursdays. No problem. Because all that
Okay.
does is we throw them in the truck and they get a feeling of what's going on. They're like, I get it. I get it. I got skin on the bones now. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. Well, I just want to thank you again, everybody. I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say thanks for sharing so much with us. And you have a unique opportunity, but you've got a great background. I mean, to me, it's just this was the kind of stuff we like to present to our listeners. For all of you listening, thank you too. Thanks for participating. If you're listening or watching this, if you could leave a review, please leave a review, especially for this one. Your reviews are our currency in the podcast world. We don't get paid for this, and we love your reviews. It helps both Michael and I. We get the benefit of meeting each other, networking. It's a great community, but you get the benefit of free education from somebody who's actually been where you want to be. So go to the website and you can go to michaeldrew.com or go to realestatedoneforyou.com. Look for the book. All right, Retire on Rent, and get the revised version if you do go to Amazon. But do all the above. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. God bless you and your loved ones, and we will see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.